Hello, Ashley Goralchik here, and I'm going to review my art activity that I completed for EDEC 605. I chose an activity where students would explore the various shades of colors, and it was done through just mixing various paints and then looking at the different colors, the different tones and color schemes and shades. For example, when you add white to a color, what does it do? When you add brown to a color, what does it do? And so I did it with my little boy, and he mixed the colors together, and then we transferred them onto a sheet that was divided into a certain amount of sections. So the rationale for the activity is it gives students sort of the freedom. I'll go over this in the procedures, but basically you lay out bottles of paint on a table, and they begin to choose colors that they want to mix together. You don't necessarily just give them red, blue, and yellow. You allow them to mix various colors from a selection that you lay out. So they did that, but the rationale would be it just gives them the freedom to mix, create new colors. That was kind of one of my extension activities, was taking a color that they had created and naming that color. Just, some more creativity to the activity. And then what are you trying to achieve with this activity? Basically, it's just encouraging curiosity and creativity through the mixing of the colors. The children would learn, there's some vocabulary with this lesson: shade, hue, color, tone, light, dark. All of those are words that could be reviewed and taught in this lesson in relation to the colors that the student creates. The course standard, the student would engage in exploration and imaginative play with materials, and that was in the creating realm. And then the students would identify a purpose of an artwork. And basically the purpose of their artwork is to display the various shades and hues and tones of colors that they have created. This could really be used for any age group. I think probably best maybe ages 3 to 6, 2 to 6. The 2-year-old might be a little bit. They're going to have a whole lot more direction and guidance. But ages 4, 5, and 6, this would be a great activity to do with them. The materials that you'll need, it's basically a piece of paper where they can transfer and paint the new colors onto. Liquid paint in various colors. You're pretty much going to want red, yellow, and blue, especially for your younger children, to kind of focus the creation of the greens and the oranges and all that around those 3 colors. A black colored pencil, because they're going to divide the construction paper or the white paper that you give them into sections that they will then paint. And then cups of water where they can clean their paintbrushes. And then I used just a round paper plate with my child at home, but it was, a fairly controlled environment. If I was going to do this in a classroom with children, I would use the trays, the paper plates, where you already have the sections divided. You've got like 3 at the top and 2 at the bottom. It would make it just a little bit, I think, cleaner, especially when they begin mixing the paints. So basically what the teacher does is gives everybody a piece of construction paper, and then the student divides it into 18 or more sections, depending on how many colors you're going to allow them to create. And they can be any shape, they can be different sizes, but you do want 18 different sections on the paper. And the student will do that with the black colored pencil, so there's a little bit more definitive division of the sections. And then you'll just pass the materials out. Give your students paper plates, paintbrushes, a cup of water, and then allow them to begin picking, their paints. I made Paxton, my little boy, do it 2 to 3 paints at a time. think it could get kind of overwhelming, and you might have a whole lot of browns and blacks if you just let the students start grabbing paint and, and mixing them together. So there's going to need to be a little bit of guidance there, but just let them pick their colors and start mixing them and kind of seeing what happens when they mix them. Obviously, the teacher would need to walk around and kind of facilitate and kind of spark conversation. Hey, what do you think would happen if you add, this yellow to this turquoise or whatever? It would be a good kind of observation assessment for the teacher to make sure that they're, filtering through as the students are mixing and painting. Then after the students mix the new colors, they begin painting each section on their cut instruction paper a different color. And then obviously in a classroom, I would allow the students to kind of hang them on a drying rack or somewhere where they can dry. And then one way to wrap up the lesson would be just, to go over the new colors that were made. What happened when you added white? What happened when you added, a black? And just kind of get them to talk about how the new colors were made, the new shades, the new hue, the hues of the colors and all that. So pretty much a discussion. And then an informal assessment that could have been used, observation, the teacher, walking around, conversating with the children while they're doing, and then obviously the discussion at the closing of the lesson. The enrichment that I chose, I said students will mix 2 paints together to create a new color, and then they will name the color and, kind of be creative with that. Also, I said they could incorporate math and kind of write it out into an equation. And if you think about it, these are going to be younger children, so 1 color plus 1 color would equal a new color. An intervention, the students maybe could pair up with another student during the mixing of the colors and the painting and kind of work hand in hand with another student. And then an accommodation, the students might only mix 2 colors together to create 1 new color, and then just have a section, a page that was maybe only divided into 3 sections or 6 sections, and just kind of make it a little bit more simplistic. Overall, my 7-year-old son, he loved doing this. Like I said, 7 is getting a little bit older, but he really enjoyed it. He kind of lost control and went a little bit overboard when we began. The more freedom I gave him, the kind of more wild it became. But he really enjoyed it, and I thought if I was going to do this again, instead of doing the construction paper into dividing it into the sections, I might actually let the students create like a paint sample. And when I say that, how when you go into Home Depot or wherever and you're looking for a new shade, you grab that paint sample and it has, from the lightest to the darkest of 1 color. And I think that would be kind of neat to do, is give them like a base color and then allow them to add maybe 1 drop of white, 4 drops of white, and do it 6 to 7 sections kind of on a strip, and allow them to do from the lightest to darkest. That might be just kind of another take on the same activity. But overall, I think this lesson it hits visual arts. Allows, creativity, curiosity. The more they mix, the more curious they become of, hey, what happens if I add this? Or what if I, add that? So it was a really interesting lesson. This course has really helped me reflect and think, how can I implement the arts more into my teaching? So I think this course has been super beneficial to me as an educator.